The corporations have not yet won.
Community still exists in small tucked-away areas not often talked about.
Artists and businesses beginning to thrive in places thought to be defeated.
Dave, I like to call him David Francis.
And I, Tom Maslowski,
are here to give you a glimpse of what's going down in downtown J-Town.
We're going to be interviewing all of our favorite musicians,
artists, and business owners
that give every ounce of themselves into what they do.
It is another Monday night. We are up above Chicago Street Pub in downtown Joliet. The open mic night is cranking away downstairs. We can hear him killing it right now after a wonderful show at the Rialto Square Theater. It was the first installment of the Local Music Mondays. I think it went great. We had a great turnout. Everyone's here at the pub enjoying some more music, and a lot of folks are getting back up on stage.
Indeed.
And we have Mr. David Francis on the soundboard, my co-host and partner in crime.
As per the usual.
And we have a special treat in the studio tonight with us. We have Mr. Chicago Farmer. Doctor, welcome.
Good evening. Good to be here.
Would you like to take us away with our first song?
Indeed. Well, I worked all week long so I could go down to the arena for the big country show. But when I stepped inside, I began to shed a tear when I saw a sign that read $13 beers. $13 beers, oh, $13 beers. I'd love to hear some songs and maybe drown away my fears. But I am just a poor boy, my money disappears, and I just can't get drunk on $13 beers. I made it to my seat. It was the third row from the back. I couldn't see a thing but a blurry cowboy hat. And the rednecks all behind me, they were screaming in my ear. They were getting drunk on $13 beers. $13 beers, oh, $13 beers. I'd love to hear some songs and maybe drown away my fears. I am just a poor boy now, I can't see or hear, and I still can't get drunk on $13 beers. So I left after a song, got out of there fast. Saw a guy on the corner in a tie-dyed, so I asked, is there any place around here where they'll treat you right? Said that John Condren's playing Chicago Street tonight. They got $3 beers, they got $3 beers. He'll sing you some songs and he'll drown away your fears. Those righteous hillbillies, those dudes are music to my ears. We'll listen and we'll get drunk on $3 beers. We'll dance and we'll get drunk on $3 beers. We'll sing along, we'll get drunk, hey Joliet, cheers. Cheers, 'cause we're not drinking $13 beers. Hey, I'm Chicago Farmer and it's good to be here.
That was great. At that moment in my mind, I heard a large audience cheering very, very emotionally. Man, I remember the first time I saw you play was here at Chicago Street Pub. I walked in very late. I think it was actually your last two songs. And you had already gotten off stage at that point, and you had a giant crowd of people around you, and you were just playing without any amps or microphones in the middle of the audience, and it was great. The one thing I always take away from your shows, and I always remember, is the mood that you were capable of setting. I think that's one of the most important things a musician can do. I don't know how you do it. You don't dress a certain way. You don't really act a certain way. You're not really kind of like in people's face, like get up and scream and clap. Yeah, you tell your stories. And the way you do it is this most kind and gentle and humble. Like, everyone feels kind of like warm and safe. I'm like, oh man, what's this guy talking about? I don't know. It's great. And he just keeps making me smile. And that's, you've never failed at doing that one time.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me here tonight, first of all. And I've been coming to Downtown Joliet for a long time, and from the very first time, people just made me feel like a local. And so even though I'm not from here, I wasn't born here, I don't live here, but I do spend plenty of time here these days. And from the first day I came, I felt like a local, and every time I come back, I feel like a local. So I think hats off to you guys for making people and musicians feel so welcome here.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, I felt the same way when I was accepted, I think, in the same manner, you know? And you said you've been coming here for years. When was the first time you came up here?
I actually got a call from Ed Anderson, who fronted the band Backyard Tire Fire, and those guys were just the hardest working rock and roll band in show business, pretty much. And they were doing 2 shows in one day, playing a doubleheader. And they said, "Hey, we're playing 2 shows. Would you mind covering for us and playing a set before this place called the Chicago Street Pub?" And I was living in Chicago. I'd never been here before, but, you know, if Ed recommended it, I said, sure. So I was like, I'll fill some time for you. And like I said, I got to about my 3rd song, and I felt like I knew everybody. And everybody was singing along by like the 3rd song, and a bunch of strangers turned into friends, and been coming back ever since. Yeah,
that's good stuff. I mean, and it's no mystery why they keep coming back when you come and see one of your shows, you know? Where are you from, if you're not from around here?
I grew up in central Illinois, a little town called Delavan. It's a population, not very many. I think 1,700 now. We've lost a few over the years and gained a few back. But I grew up there in a small little farm town where not much going on. And in the early 2000s, I decided I want to try this music thing. So I moved to Chicago. And now I live back in Bloomington. So I went from very small to huge to medium size and pretty much everywhere in between.
What got you started playing music in the first place? You said you just kind of up and decided that you were going to Chicago?
I started writing songs in study hall. I grew up in this small town and not much to do. And I think by the time I was a senior, I had 6 study halls, lunch, and gym. That was pretty much my day. That was my whole day. So I woke up one day in study hall and decided that I was going to go on these little adventures in my head. And I started going on those adventures in my head. And then when I got back from the adventures, I started writing them down because I had nothing else to do. And then one summer, I took some detasseling money and got a guitar and kind of put the poetry into motion. And after I had played all 2 bars and every garage and restaurant in my hometown, which took about a week, I decided it was time to branch out. So I played in Bloomington and Peoria for a little bit, and then I was just like, let's just go for it and head up to Chi-Town and see what happens.
So then are you completely... I'm sorry, Dave, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I actually have a question.
Yeah, bring it.
Is detasseling a thing? Actually, that's kind of more for Tom because I'm from Wilmington.
No, I didn't know either. I was going to ask. I was going to work up to it.
I'm from Wilmington, and I went to college down in Bloomington. I went to Lincoln College in Normal, and I stayed down there for 2 years after I dropped out after 1 year. Yeah. And detasseling is a thing that we were offered at high school as a summer job, and I was wondering how common that is.
I don't think it's that common anymore.
What is it, guys?
Detasseling is basically you get with a bunch of people who are your age who are basically goof off the whole time, but they're supposed to go down these rows of corn and remove the certain tassels off of the top of the corn so they can do their things.
It's like part of the pollination process or something?
Yes, something like that. And but basically for us it was get dirty, get muddy, put frogs in each other's lunch boxes and do something other than daydream in study hall. So it was something to do, but it was really a trick to put us to work. So
yeah, right. And you will now do this mundane job. Take that.
Yes, pretty much.
So you truly are a Chicago farmer then. There's no BS there.
Both my sets of grandparents were farmers. One set has passed away, but my other set still, my grandfather lives in the same farmhouse that he grew up in, and he retired from farming at 85. And so there's I come from a long line of family farmers. My dad owned a head shop and sang in a band, and I am now a musician too. So my dad and I kind of chose different paths than the rest of the family, but we both stick to our roots as well.
Is the farm still in your family at all?
It is. It's farmed by another gentleman who's a friend of our family now, and it's not as much as it used to be. And but yeah, Grandpa still tinkers around a little bit, and Grandma too. They're 95 and 90, and
wow,
still come to my shows, still hang out, still drive, still do their thing, and still have a good time. So
that's
yeah,
pretty
I'm
great.
very, very fortunate.
What got you started playing actually? Like, so your dad got you playing guitar, I'm assuming then?
He was a singer, and when I was in high school, it was the alternative boom. So I was listening to Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that kind of stuff. And I guess Nirvana Unplugged was kind of like this revelation for me. And soon after that, I was hanging out at my friend's house, and we were upstairs listening to punk rock music and grunge and all that stuff. And I walked downstairs one day, and my buddy's dad was playing an old flat top acoustic guitar, and he was singing Hank Williams songs. And I was kind of like, just all those other bands I was listening to were playing a million notes a minute, and then this guy was just strumming a few chords and singing these Hank songs, and just kind of hit home with me. So kind of a mix between the whole Nirvana Unplugged, which to me is kind of like a folk album, and then hearing these Hank Williams songs, it just kind of this light went on in my head where these, just a nice warm sound. And then I moved to Chicago and started getting into the John Prine and the Arlo Guthrie's and the Old Town School of Folk Music and storytelling and stuff like that.
I was going to say, that sounds like a lot of storytellers.
Yeah, and just kind of blended it all together, I guess.
So the Hank Williams really got you and sent you down that road for the most part?
Yeah. By that time, my ears were already bleeding, and I had already only been in a couple garage bands. And so I was like, I need to just, I don't know, mellow out a little bit. Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, it definitely fits your personality more, that's for sure. If you were a metal guy, I would definitely be like, whoa, that's crazy that he plays so much metal.
I played in some bands. I played in a band called the Penal Codes, and we were some straight up, bar chord bar band, grunge rock, and we screamed and yelled, and I had a hap stack and an electric guitar, and even had a Flying V Gibson one time.
Now, what happened to the Flying V? Where is that?
The Flying V got traded in for a Martin guitar. So.
Is it that current Martin right there?
It's another one. Yeah. Yep. So actually, I have two. I'm fortunate to have two guitars. So.
Martins are nice. I'm a big fan myself.
They are.
What do you think? Because we've interviewed a few different people on the show who it seems like a lot of us had started off playing some pretty heavy stuff, whether it be straight metal or some version of it. Why? Why do you think that is that we all did that? Is it the...
maybe it is the teenage angst. I don't know, but it was a great start. It was I don't know. I think music is just supposed to move you in certain ways, and that the heavier stuff really moved me physically. But I started listening more to lyrics and stuff, and it started moving me mentally, emotionally, and it touched all the bases for me basically.
Yeah.
When I got into folk music and stories and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was I had talked a lot about this with other people about the storytelling aspect of it, and I think the very first time that it really got my attention. I know it sounds kind of horrible. I've been playing music for 25 years, and just only a few years ago did I really catch into that. I'm bad with words. I kind of mumble. I trip over my words. I listen to like melodies and chords and things. And there's a guy, Colm O'Brien, he's like an original Irish, like traditional style musician, and he was down on Chicago Street, and he would tell these epic stories, and he would be all just huge and talking about all these great things and talking about 15 Guinnesses, and I'm like, hell yeah, I want a Guinness right now. And, so I've really been enjoying that more often lately, and I like to hear when people tell stories at shows, and I try to encourage some of the people that I play with to tell more of the stories. I don't think it ruins the poetry. I think sometimes it, sometimes the symbolism is an inside joke, so to speak, with just you, but if people knew what you were actually referencing, I think they do enjoy it more. Like, holy cow, he said he used that to say those things that he was talking about. And I don't know, I think sometimes they end up even liking the story a bit more.
Yeah, I think so too. I was playing in my hometown bar, and if you're a musician, you've ever played in a small town, you pretty much have to play for about 4 hours to to get $50.
Yeah.
So I would play for like 4 hours, and I would sometimes repeat songs because I would run out of time. You know, I was only in my early 20s, and I didn't have a lot of material. So I started talking about the songs and telling some stories and weaving in some things like that. And it seemed like it connected just as much as the songs did, really.
Right.
People were interested in where it came from, what was going on, you know, in the world, in my world and the real world, you know, when I was writing it and stuff like that. And sometimes that connection can be so simple. It can be a phrase, or it can be a full, long story. So,
do you have any particular subject matter? You said when you started going like in your head and making up stories and going on adventures. Do you have any of those songs left?
I think the older I get, and this is probably same for a lot of, I think the older you get as a songwriter, the more honest you get. Where I was in a study hall, it was all imagination. You know, I was making things up, and I was using my imagination, and I was elaborating on that. So I was just picking things out of the air and writing about them, and, you know, it was all creative. And the older you get, I think the more honest you have to get, and the more you really dial in, and you can't really, I mean, you're always using your imagination, you're always trying to be creative, but the songs just have a more of a realness and an honesty to them.
Would you say more autobiographical?
Yes, absolutely.
I think some of that might have to do with, as I experienced some, like, because I don't play, and I've always been the person that doesn't write songs because they're too personal for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I would imagine once you kind of, I guess, adjust to the vulnerability of exposing yourself to large audiences, and that kind of starts to bleed in, and you're more comfortable expressing the autobiographical
Sure.
sense.
Yeah, it takes kind of life lessons.
Yeah.
You know, you have to.
Yeah, plus you just have more to talk about when you're
Yeah, I mean, when I was 17, I was angry, but I had no reason to be.
Right.
Now I have a little anger, and I have emotions and stuff, and they're all real, and so I'm letting them out, and it comes out a little more organically and a little truer.
Do you have any kind of rituals or anything like that you go through when you write?
Not really. I mean, some people write every day. I don't really do that. I kind of, when something hits me, I'll write about it, and sometimes I'll just go live life and then come back and bring it all back with me to the notebook and stuff like that, and sit down and write it. And you know, like just tonight, hanging out in Joliet, we had a great show down the street, and then there's an open mic going on, and things are happening, and yeah, you know, certain
things. And we're up here talking about it.
And here we are. And yeah, little things inspire me. And tonight was an inspiring evening for different reasons. And, you know, take that home with me when it's time to bring out the guitar and the notebook and jot it all down.
So you do have the notebook.
I do. I used to be able to just remember it all in my head, and I'd repeat it in the car. I write most of my songs in my car because I'm driving to gigs constantly.
Yeah, so you're never home. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, and so I make a point of not looking at my phone in the car, so I have to just keep repeating it in my head, and when I get home, I can write it down. So,
do you ever get into the voice memo feature?
I have not. I know there's so much technology I should be using, but I don't even use like a recorder. I just, if something pops out, I sometimes I'll pull it over and jot it down, or I'll just keep repeating it in my head. But yeah, I should bring like a tape recorder or something.
Well, even on the iPhone,
yeah,
we've been talking about this with other people too. There's a great, it's like you just hit record and you can just talk and say all your ideas, and like so I'll send Dave goofy soundtrack ideas, like I'll be humming the bass line and like send it to him that way. He loves those.
You gotta save all that though, because I heard that James McMurtry, who's one of my favorite songwriters, had a bunch of ideas, and his phone like went in the lake or something. And he pulled it out and it was lost on his cloud or whatever, or something like that. So back that stuff up, songwriters. Yeah. Or comedians or whoever you are. You know, you gotta save that stuff.
My favorite story about that is John Tesh writing the NBA theme song on an airplane.
Oh, yeah.
And he called his own the analog answering machine and sang the song into that. And it's like, well, the analog's the way to go, man. That's why digital sucks.
Brilliant.
You know who's got a couple of great ones like that is Blind Melon.
Oh, yeah.
They have, on the last album, it wasn't really an album. He had died before they got a chance to put it out, and he had a bunch of answering machine songs. They were actually really cool. It was kind of neat to hear him on the answering machine, too, you know?
Yeah.
Did you take lessons or anything like that, Cody?
I had some friends show me some stuff, but I didn't take lessons until I got to Chicago, And I had already been playing and writing for a long time, but I started playing the harmonica. And my wife and I lived in this little box in West Rogers Park, and I think she was getting annoyed by my harmonica playing. So I'm going to adjust this microphone. I think I came home one day and there was a gift certificate for harmonica lessons on our table. And I was like, this is a sign that I'm getting pretty annoying, so I better go take some lessons. So,
or she was being supportive.
Yes, and probably both, but most of all, she was probably annoyed because I had nowhere to escape to play my harmonica. So no really guitar lessons or songwriting lessons, but did have the harmonica lessons, and the rest just, I've been blessed to know so many great musical friends who show me stuff, and down the road,
I was going to say, Ed Anderson is definitely probably a great guy to know and hang out with.
Yeah. I've been fortunate to know so many great Illinois musicians that, learn so much from.
And you guys play together quite a bit. You guys played a Tonic Room show, I don't know, it was maybe 2 years ago, where it was like you had the full band and he played lead guitar.
Yeah.
That was unreal. Had you guys been in a band together previously?
No, we never had. I had sat in with Backyard Tire Fire a few times and sang some songs with them and played some shows, but and Ed right now has a great solo thing going. He's kind of like a one-man band thing going right now, and he's just tearing it up. But once in a while we get together and we rock out. And to have him in my band that night was incredible. We did like 3 shows together, and it took the whiny folk singer to a whole nother level of rock and roll, and we got to rock out a little bit and got all sweaty and stinky in a little room of 100 people, so it felt real good.
Yeah, that was a good night. That was a really good night. And was that, so I mean, I've only ever seen you play solo. Has that been your thing always?
I've played some in some bands in some garages when I was younger,
right.
But then moved to the solo troubadour thing. But every once in a while, I've been playing with some bands, and I've been doing this for so long. It's nice to try something new and get a different perspective and put the poetry in motion a little bit more. And
sure.
I think it's always revolved around the song, but if you can hear the song in different ways, it never hurts to get a new perspective on it as well.
Yeah, it was cool. Brent James was up here last week, and he played a couple of newer songs. And then I heard him play them tonight at the Rialto with the full band, and it was a completely different song.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
That was very, very cool.
Yeah, I love that effect. I think that's a great thing. I know Condren and Hoffer sometimes get like tripped up too, like going back and forth between playing solo and playing with the full band. You really fall into a different character, so to speak.
Sure.
Do you feel like you're able to? Do you feel like you get into a new skin when you're with the band?
Yeah, it's nice to have that energy and just that backbeat going. Yeah. And it's, I have a lot of bad habits being a solo guy with, rhythm and things like that. I'm kind of all over the place. So to play with some guys that know what they're doing, it's great. And it's also, being solo has its ups and its downs, and sometimes when you're playing 6 gigs in a row all by yourself, it's nice to have a band once in a while and just be like, hey man, take a solo, or take a drum solo or a guitar solo, or sing some harmonies or something. It's nice to mix it up.
Yeah, I would imagine. I've never had the chance to play that many gigs in a row for that long. I've had some long summers, but I've never had it to where, like, hey, I'll see you guys next year. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That's got to be kind of a wear on you after a while. It's got to be hard to maintain the everything about the show. You're the everything. You're the storyteller, the front man, the background band. You got to keep that mood going. That's got to be, it's pretty challenging. I've never heard any complaints. I've never heard anywhere in the rumor mill anything bad about Chicago Farmer as a person or as a performer. So, I mean, that...
Oh, well, thank you.
That really says a lot, because, I mean, you're gone all the time.
It says a lot, because musicians usually talk a lot of trash about other musicians.
Should have heard the recording before we started the podcast.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's pretty incredible stuff. How did you fall into doing... I mean, I know you can just go and book shows and just go on the road and just like rough it or whatever, but I mean, you seem to do okay. How did you fall into that position?
I was just, when I moved to Chicago, I would just play wherever I could. And, I was living in Chicago, and I would still drive 3 hours home twice a week to play back in Central Illinois, just to, keep the roof over the head and food on the table. And I met my wife, and she was super supportive, and didn't hurt that she had a real job at the time. So that really helped out things. And I would just take any gig that I could, and I just was pretty nonstop. And I got the attention of this guy, Chad, who he plays in a band called Great American Taxi, and a band called Hardworking Americans, which is with Todd Snyder and Dave Schools of Widespread Panic. And Chad kind of became my manager and started managing me and gave me a lot of advice. And we found a booking agent who now handles booking my shows and stuff like that. So it's really made a big difference. I can mostly, just focus on writing songs and doing that. And these other guys have to deal with all the emailing and
Sure.
all the non-fun stuff. I do miss, being like, texting Triz at Chicago Street Pub and being like, "Hey man, can I play there?" And he's like, "Sure, come on up." And then that's the end of transaction. No contract needed. But it's nice to have somebody who's got your back, and it makes a big help, especially if you're just by yourself. It's nice to have somebody's back. Somebody having your back is cool.
Speaking of having your back, back to Ed Anderson.
Sure.
Oh. Well, real quick, though.
Yes.
That is the sound that signifies the end of the interview portion of the show. I got to give my speech. But can we have just one more thing? Because I know you and Ed Anderson are going to be playing together in a few shows coming up all around. You want to just tell us about those real quick? Yeah,
we'll be right across the street from Chicago Street Pub at the Rialto on July 10th. It's another Monday local showcase sponsored by our good friends at Chicago Street Pub and many other local establishments. And this fall, we're going to be doing the two-man duo show, and it's going to be a bit folky, but it's also going to be kind of a rock and roll because Ed's a one-man band, and he plays electric and banjo and slide and cigar box, and I'm going to make him do all the work, and I'm just going to play my 3 chords and sing, and we're going to rock out, and it's going to be a blast. So I hope to see you all out.
Yeah, it's going to be a good combination. Is that City Winery is the other one?
No, we're going to do Bloomington and some other shows. I'm going to be actually at City Winery on May 19th.
Okay.
With a band called Donna the Buffalo. And if you go to chicagofarmer.com, you can find out where I'll be and get more info soon on the Rialto show.
Well, all right. Well, thanks. What do you got for us for the closer here?
We will do a little song here. I'm going to have to tune it up, but this is kind of a little ditty here that I wrote about being a musician and kind of like the wacky life we live and the strange hours and all the fun stuff that goes along with it. And being out on a Monday night like we are right now in Chicago Street and seeing like 30 guitar cases downstairs is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Cool. Let me tune it up real quick and we'll knock it out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, like I say, it's great. I don't know if you guys can hear this right now, audience, but through my headphones, I can kind of hear the open mic night still going downstairs. What time is it right now? Like almost 11? I think we'll probably be going pretty strong tonight, man. Maybe like 12 or 1, I'm sure. Hopefully Dave and I can get downstairs and we can hear Dave do his Tenacious D impersonations.
Nice. No offense to guitar players, but they probably could use a bass down there.
Yeah, I know. I have my upright up here. Maybe I'll get down there and do a little playing. That'd be nice. Most of the time we get done with our with the show up here, and by the time we get downstairs, that everyone's kind of closing up shop. It's one of the downsides to doing it on Monday. But it's exciting, I think, You get to see everything going on at once. It's kind of like a cool little buzz that there was a giant Rialto show and an open mic night, and we're recording a podcast. I don't know. It's
a good night.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
It's a good night.
All right,
cool.
You set?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
No, thanks for being here. Appreciate that.
The first song was called $13 Beers, and this one is called 9 p.m. to 5.
Savings in my pocket, I'm coming up as the sun goes down. Another day now, you can clock it. I'm wide awake in a
Very cool. Yet again, another solo artist capable of filling the entire room all by himself. That's magic. Dave, thanks for getting everything done up here tonight.
Yeah, man. Like it's such a pleasure. I love doing this.
Yep, it's been a lot of fun. It's been great. Hopefully we can keep it going. And we got to line up some more. Oh, we have one more lined up. We have one more interview lined up. And then after that, we're going to start taking some requests. We've had some listeners, some local bands in the area contact us and want to get on the show. And I think we're almost ready to have them on there. So that's going to be kind of nice. Chicago Farmer, Cody, thank you for taking time out of your insanely crazy busy schedule and coming on up here and supporting the Rialto show. It's very cool.
It's my pleasure. If you want to get a hold of me, Mondays is the day.
Monday is the day.
Good coincidence. Good coincidence.
Yeah, right. We'd also like to, of course, thank Bill Aldrich for letting us use his magnificent facility here at Third City Sound.
Super generous of him, yeah.
Extraordinarily generous. And, of course, Mike and Kathy Trisna for all the things they do, all the sacrifices they make to make sure that this whole thing is perpetuated.
Keeping the local scene alive.
It's been great.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, the listeners, for tuning in to another episode of What's Going Down in Downtown J-Town.